So I just did a video about the middle of April. So I now want to kind of touch on toward the end because things do begin to shift at the end of April before we get into May. One of the things that will calm things down in some ways is that the sun will go out of Aries on the 20th and move into Taurus. So the beginning of Taurus, which creates a new energy that we're moving away from all this, war and initiation. But now the Taurus energy is going, what are we fighting for or about? This is where resources come in because Taurus represents resources. Resources it would means money, the things you need to survive with in a physical world. So Taurus and Scorpio are very much the money signs, along with Cancer and Capricorn. But Scorpio and Taurus are very interesting because Taurus represents self-sufficiency. So when it goes along with this month of taking initiative in your life about what you want, that you find your own resources of yourself, or what are your values and your resources, and self-initiate, and not feel you want to break up the dependencies you have in your life. Because Scorpio is about resources, but it wants to control everybody's resources for itself. Essentially, it's a control freak around money. And so Scorpios love money, but they want to be in charge of it. And so they need other people to work with. So they work with other people in money industries. And then Taurus is more like self-sufficient. So now that we go into Taurus, all the arguments, all the fights will be about the resources. And so as we look at that, it moves into something that's also changing at the end of the month, was that the planet Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus, money and resources, for the last 7 years. Well, one of the big things we're all at war about is who gets the resources, because the reason America first happened is because all our money people thought was going everywhere else but here. And so all of a sudden everybody goes, what about us? Because all of a sudden, the politics came is that you want to stay home, so we get the resources. Well, guess what happened? None of that happened. The resources are still going out for those who have always been in charge, the ones who are in charge of the resources, which isn't the people, it's the people that run the people. So the corporations and the people and the oligarchs, and is essentially, the big industries and things like that. So, this is where this conflict will happen. And being in Taurus, it's been very fixed. So the fixed energy of Taurus is like, this is where my camp is and this is where your camp is. And so this is the other part. It was like, the haves and the have-nots, and the fight we have around those differences. And it is fixed. I feel like we can't get out of these camps about, I want to be around people that have money, or I want to be around people that, are hardworking, or whatever that looks like. But the planet Uranus on the 26th of this month is going to move into Gemini, which is an air sign and a very, what we call communicative sign. So everything shifts and everything's about communication. Everything is about debate. We're going to talk all of this out, because Uranus is like very comfortable in the sign of an air sign, because itself is an air sign as it rules Aquarius. So now it's like, we need to have a discussion. So now that everything has been stuck, no one wants to talk, everyone's in their camp, now we have no choice. The debates begin. And so there's going to be a lot of legality issues coming up, a lot of looking at how do we do it differently, looking at your own resources. What are my needs? Do I need this much? Do I need the big house? Do I, what's my sense of freedom of the things that I get to do in my life, and whether the resources, are they going to that? And what my responsibilities are to the people that depend on me, or vice versa. But the whole point in the big picture is that we're going to really start having debates about where we are going and who are going to be the ones that we hook up with the same sort of thinking. So, when now we go back to democracies versus authoritarianism, and are we breaking up everything, and are we going to go in different camps? Are we going to try and find a collective, now we go to Neptune and Aries, where we all kind of want the same thing and feel like we're all getting treated fairly? So this is going to really take us in for a while into the money essence, and all the talk you'll see is going to be about resources around money and where it's going and who it's going to. So the other thing I want to say is, when I do a chart reading, there's two things I do in that hour. One is to do the karmic part, and which is a big crux of the reading, is to tell you what you bring into this life karmically, and your story you bring in with it, to work on your past. so you can heal the wounds of the things that no longer work and move forward in your life. The other thing I do is to tell you what is going on currently in your chart, like what we're talking about now. So there's a lot of my clients that are coming to me saying, big changes are happening in my life. And I look at that because a lot of these people that are at that point have a lot of fire and air energy in their chart. And so they're being affected a lot. So when you have fire and air planets, the big planets in these bigger signs of fire and air, it creates big movements in your own chart. These aren't times for small changes. These are big changes for a lot of you out there. I myself have a lot of fire and air. I have no earth, by the way, in my chart. So that's something I'm working on in this life, my foundation. But everything else is like, I'm a very combustible personality. My head's always going. I'm very communicative, and I've got a lot of passion about what I believe and talk about. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this right now. So essentially, if you got a lot of fire and air, you have a lot going on, and I have a lot of clients that do. So I can tell you in a reading where it's playing out, because it's one thing to have it happen, but it's where it's playing out. And so that becomes important in terms of what you need to focus on in the parts of your life where it is playing out. So if you want to get a reading from me, go to tommcmullen.com. That's my website, and everything's there. You can, go through everything to find out how to get in contact with me. And so that's one place to get me, and that's where, if you contact me, I'm usually booked in advance. It's not real far out right now, but at the same time, I will put you on a list, and I'm happy to guide you in your life and help you where you are now and where you're trying to get to right now, essentially.